Welcome to Exit the Matrix, Stories of Success, with your host, Jane Slack-Smith, where we celebrate the incredible journeys of individuals who've transcended their limitations and achieved extraordinary success.
Welcome to today's episode of Exit the Matrix, Stories of Success, where we delve into extraordinary journeys of transformation and resilience. Now, our guest today is Cath Covacin, a remarkable individual who transitioned from a scientist to a coach for children. Now, Cath's story is one of passion and purpose, and it's underpinned by a profound desire to impact the younger generation positively. As a mother and grandmother, she envisaged a world where children can fully appreciate its wonders, equipped with the confidence and joy to navigate life with ease. Now, Cath believes that if children today had a deeper awareness of their emotions, they could lead a more fulfilling life from a younger age. Her work focuses on helping children connect with themselves, fostering an environment where they can understand and embrace their feelings. And she does this through the most amazing ways with games and lots of fun. Now, she's unique because her methodology revolves around accepting and processing emotions as essential pieces of information, not to be ignored. And her courses are designed for kids between the age of 9 and 16, and they're so innovative. They create a safe space for children to explore their emotions. Now, her work, I believe, is more critical than ever now because in this world saturated with media and often toxic environments, kids need to be able to respond confidently and positively to prepare them for future challenges. So, without further ado, I can't wait to introduce you to Cath today, where we get to discuss her experience of exiting the matrix, that sliding door moment where everything changed. So, Cath, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jane. Pleasure to be here.
So, Cath, it didn't all start with you teaching children. Tell me, where did it all start for you and that pivotal sliding door moment where things changed?
Actually, it's interesting as soon as you said sliding door moment, because it was about this time, quite a while ago now, that I kept hearing on the news about kids, having guns and shooting teachers and classmates. And I was horrified. And I mean, I actually stopped watching the news. I used to be so traumatized by it. I just couldn't believe and the effect that would have and how it would go out into the families and things. And at this time, when I started to decide I would change what I was doing, I was taking time from work and spending time with my mother, who was unwell at the time, and my sisters and I would share care. And I was up there one day, and I was supposed to be with my mum, and of course I'm working on my computer, and my older sister and my mother were there, and they were talking. And they were discussing how these kids had gone and vandalized a school and were destructive. And I could hear them, blaming the kids, then blaming the parents, and then blaming something else. And I thought, but what about these kids, What has happened to them? What has made them this way? Why are they acting this way? And I thought I'm sitting there working on my science stuff, and I thought, we have to stop blaming and do something. And I thought, I use certain skills to get through busy work schedules. I get them to deal with difficult people. And I thought I could sort of modify what I do and turn it into a program from a kid. I mean, of course, that's sort of typical of me. I think, I could do that. And so I decided then and there that is what I was going to do. So and that was about 4 years ago.
Doing beforehand, what was your role beforehand?
Oh, I was the chief scientist for parasitology at Biosecurities Queensland. So we looked at, endemic outbreaks or exotic outbreaks. And I love the job. Still do.
Chief scientist looking at parasites and infectious diseases. I find it incredible that you've listened to this story and gone, not that these children are parasites, but you're sitting in there going, why are they being treated like this? Why are they acting in a way that I need to understand? If you've taken that scientific approach that's gone, actually, there's something else going on here, which is, it's kind of models what you were doing as a scientist.
Exactly. It actually, I wondered if that was why the transition was so easy. I mean, parasites manipulate their hosts and make them do crazy things. I mean, when I was learning about parasites, my kids and I love some of the crazy stories, toxoplasmosis in rats and mice will make them run in front of cats, so they actually get eaten. So, parasites can manipulate, and so can thoughts. And I thought, this is what we need to do. We need to get into their thoughts and feelings and to see what's manipulating them. How can we change this?
You're sitting there going, I'm here on my computer doing my scientific analysis for the government as, this chief scientist. No, I'm going to apply this to kids and emotions because this is not right. Was that kind of like, did your mum, your sister, did everyone go, or your workmates go, oh, that makes sense? Or did you have a bit of a pushback? Were there challenges and obstacles for you making that change?
Yes, actually, there was actually one of the ones, and I guess it's a compliment. I went to my manager and said, look, I've got a lot to do. I'm spending time with my mum, and we were running massive studies at this time. And I said, I'd like to finish up. And I said, I'll give you extra time. And she talked me into working an extra 6 months because she didn't want me to go. We were running, as I said, large studies. There was some outbreaks with bees. So there was a lot of work on. And I was really passionate about this work. And I loved what I did, and it was quite evident with the success we had in our section. My partner is still a little, don't know the right word here,
Right.
upset because I took a well-paid job, an excellent position. It was the pinnacle of studying. I mean, parasitology isn't the go-to area these days. It's more virology and things. So when I did it, finding a job like this in such a perfect position for my academic qualifications, it was so crazy to walk away from it. I think he still says, but why would you study so hard and get where you get to do something that is not related at all? And to be honest, I still go into work very occasionally, and I even have my own microscope at home just to get a fix. But I go in occasionally and help out when there's outbreaks and there's a lot of work. And it's just pleasant to step back into that environment, to the people I worked with, to sit all day looking down a microscope. But the last time I was there, I spent most of the time talking to the other staff saying, so how do you feel about that? No, what does that make you feel? Let's talk. I spent more time using my Keys to Potential program and, and talking about that. But I got to admit, I was looking down a microscope at the time.
I love the fact that you go back for a fix on parasites. Like, it's just, for me, it's so foreign to hear such a love of something and then go, no, this purpose is so much more. And it's interesting, you're really targeting a young age group, that 9 to 16-year-olds. But what you're saying to me is you go to a work environment and you see what happens if those emotions aren't navigated and understood, and there's an awareness of it as a young age. As an adult, we propagate, beliefs or conditions or limitations or ways that we orientate and respond to our emotions without knowing it. So by changing the children's awareness, you're actually changing the adults. And you were acting as a scientist going, well, what's the end result if we don't do this when you went into work?
It was so obvious, actually. Because I'm working in this area a lot and, talking with young kids online and doing the work and then getting into work, an environment completely abstract or different to what I'm doing now, and seeing adults that are like the kids I talk to online, or the end result of the kids that if they hadn't had someone to talk to online. And it is amazing because you can see what a difference, because that's what I used. That was my whole heart and intention. What difference can we make by addressing the situations now, by giving them the skills, the tools, the knowledge to be emotionally confident, to make decisions that matter, and we'd call them good decisions, now and later on in life. So I can see how people that remain in that fixed victim mentality, or, that blame and everything else mentality as adults, I adored them, but it was so more obvious this time sitting there, walking back into it and seeing them sitting an adult creation of a person that has not addressed emotional problems, I guess.
Well, I have to commend you. I mean, it's a bold move. This sliding door moment, often people let them pass by without even noticing that moment. And you just hearing that conversation and thinking, I can do something about it. But then in a unique way, applying your skills to the children and creating keys to potential. And even with the resistance, I imagine that you had, and you've shared with not just your partner and your boss, but I imagine there was a lot of people going, oh, what the is she doing? Let's just come to now. You've run courses, you've worked with children. What's happening now? What has happened since you've embraced that purpose that you have? And what have you seen in the transformation with the children that you've worked with?
I think it's interesting. It's so hard to say. There's more pleasure and fun, although, again, parasites are fun, but there's more pleasure and joy, and there is such a feeling of creating something that will go on. It's not just a fixed end result of a study. I've handed in the worksheet. I know some chemical will be developed. But it's lovely because it's part of something bigger. I love it. I remember one of my favorite students, and the mum was saying, well, I don't know if you'll get anything out of it, out of him, I should say. And by the end, he just kept turning up, and the session should have finished, but I'd say, look, we've finished and you don't need to come. No, I'll come next week. And there was one time when there was a hiccup and he couldn't log in, but he stayed around for an hour hoping to get on somehow. But the change in him was so evident. He would, first sort of give these small replies and injections. And in the end, he was always saying, oh, we could do this here and add that there. It was so nice to see him. And, part of me thought, here is a kid that would have just traveled along, not been seen or heard. And I think that's what they get out of the class a little bit, is that suddenly they are important. What they have to say and what they offer is important. And I am interested, and we're both interested in the same thing, really. Them being happy, confident, and successful. I think that's the biggest difference. It's always fun. You don't know what people are like. Everything is a little bit unique because, I tell the students they're all unique, and that's fantastic. And
I think, that's interesting. What I love about this is that there's like a 4-week program when the kids are like, can we come back the next week? And I imagine, as you said, in the beginning, the parents are like, oh, I don't know if anything's going to happen. But parents who are listening to this and going, oh, how do I encourage my child to, go along to this course? Or I'm noticing in my child that maybe there are some things happening at school they don't want to talk about or with their peers. And how do I, make this interesting, or, is there games? Is it fun? Like how would they introduce keys to potential? And why don't you go along and try this out to their child? Now, a quick word from our sponsor, Your Success Club. Your Success Club is a group of vibrant, abundance seekers. If you subscribe to exitthematrix.io, we are going to drop you into the club room, which has lots of goodies, resources, and a free gift just for subscribing. Now, back to the podcast.
Well, on the website, there is a kids kit, and that sort of is just a little brochure just to, for kids themselves so they can read about it. But the best part of the program is it's just activity based, and they're just games that we play. And but as they're playing the games, one, they're warming up, they're learning to speak up. Two, they're getting comfortable with themselves and other people on the group, and sharing. Just sharing is so important, I think, giving themselves a voice. And
being seen, as you said, being seen. A lot of these kids aren't seen for whatever reason in schools, or, big classrooms with teachers who only got a certain amount of attention for those that make a big noise or are the clever ones, or create the mischief. So there's a lot of kids that go unseen. So it's beautiful that you're giving them an opportunity to create that confidence in themselves to know that if they do speak up, there's not a consequence.
No, there's so many guidelines, we call them. There is no right or wrong, no good or bad responses. Everybody's unique, and it's not bad or wrong to feel angry. Sometimes we tell ourselves, I'll get in trouble if I get angry, or none of those. We always say the biggest thing I think, or not to talk too much about the course, is that emotions is just personal information, basically. It's just another piece of information. And when you can put it in perspective, it just becomes a piece of information to be processed the same as your other senses, what you see, what you think, what you feel, and what emotion is that. That's your personal information. The other thing is the parents themselves actually get an intro. So it is a 4-week course, but part of the course, there is a parent intro night where it just goes for about 30 to 45 minutes, depending how fast, or the number of people, number of questions. And they actually get an intro night, and it's just a review of the whole program. And they get to see the activities that we go through. And it's so interesting because the activities are so subtle with, just complete imagination, and until you personalize it a little bit, until at the end, they're owning the whole process. And it is their process for them to take home and to use and to have. And they take this process and they can use it for the rest of their lives, for any situation.
There's probably some parents and adults who would probably benefit from that too. And what's interesting is that seemingly you've gone from a scientific, biology, physical type of world to, this emotional, internal world. But as we know, with biochemistry and, the latest neuroscience is that, emotions are actually from our 5 senses and 4 internal senses that actually provoke a event in our prefrontal cortex that goes to an experience within 3 seconds to assume what that emotion should be. So really it's just a sense, and emotions are made up through the illusion of the stories that we have. And the fact that you can combine that, emotional response is a biological one, but one you can control by creating the story or the narrative and having ownership of that. I mean, that's just profound. If every adult had that, what a wonderful world we would have. So, I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and I know you've also got a book called Josh around the story of a young boy and I had the pleasure of reading it recently, and just something that allows kids to actually experience the the work without it being a lesson as well, and just, someone else's journey, is a great entry point to the conversation for those with older children. So thank you for that. Now, as always, I ask my guests about something that's a little bit fun, something that maybe would surprise our listeners about you. I know that you've had an incredible life. We talked about your incredible success in your career as a scientist. I know that you weren't always a scientist. I'm sure that you've got something that you can, weird, bizarre, cool, or something you'd like to share.
Well, that's tricky. The only thing I can feel, and it's come to me at this point in time, is that I worked in a clothing shop for many years, and that, to be honest, was a brilliant sliding door moment, because that was where my core learning of not being so shy. Previous to that, I was so shy, unbelievably shy, super, super shy. You would not believe it. But working in a clothing shop was almost one of those sliding door moments. It was, fearful of speaking to clients, ended up running the shop, employing people, firing people, doing window displays, ordering clothes for the shop.
So from a chronically shy person to now helping people and children navigate their own emotions, that's a big leap. So, wow. Well, I hope everyone has enjoyed this podcast and this episode with Cath. I think her story is incredibly inspiring, as all of our guests are. And, those sliding door moments, those times where you have a little nudge, a hunch, intuition, whatever you want to call it, that says, maybe there's an opportunity to take a different path. I hope this has inspired you to maybe be a bit more aware of those moments. And if you've liked this podcast, please head over to exitthematrix.io. Subscribe there, subscribe on Apple or wherever you listen to your podcast. Give us a 5-star review, because, hey, let's get in and hack that algorithm and push this out in front of more and more people. And as always, here is to your success. Thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to speaking to you all soon.
Thank you for listening to Exit the Matrix, Stories of Success. Make sure you subscribe to future episodes at www.exitthematrix.io. Until next time, here's to your success.